Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bhagavad Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta, Bhagavad Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta, Bhagavad Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta, Bhagavad Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaram Kandat Ako Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 जय प्रभुपादा प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु चरण श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु चरण वंदमोए सावधान माते वंदमोए वंदमोए सावधान माते वंदमोए यहाँ प्रसादे भाई ए भवतरिया यहाँ प्रसादे भाई भवतरिया प्रसादे कृष्ण प्राप्ति है ते कृष्ण कृष्ण प्राप्ति है ते कृष्ण प्राप्ति गुरुमुख पद्मावक्या चितति करिया क्या गुरुमुख गुरुमुख पद्मावक्या चितति करिया क्या गुरुमुख आना करिह माने आशा आरना करिह माने आरना करिह माने आशा आरना श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चराने श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु चराने ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्वाशा ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा ये प्रसादे चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशिता दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशिता प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ हते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ हते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहाँ चरिता वेद गाय जहाँ चरिता वेद गाय जहाँ चरिता श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनारा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम नरा बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवना लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवना हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया प्रभु हाँ 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 प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया एबे आज गो शुक्र भुवना एबे आज गो शुक्र भुवना हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया प्रभु करो हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया प्रभु करो एबे आज गो शुक्र भुवना एबे आज गो शुक्र भुवना एबे आज गो शुक्र भुवना जय प्रभुपादा 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 श्रील प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा जय 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 जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामीति नामिने सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद प्रभु नित्यानंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण जय प्रभुपादा प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा सभी लोग बोलिए हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Govind Radha Govind Shri Radhe Jaya Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman Sitaram Jaya Panchatattva Jaya Gauranitai Panchatattva Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Siddhanath Premanande Hari Bol
Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharyya Ashtottarshat His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Jai 𝒄𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒕 Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharyya Ashtottarshat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की षड गोस्वामी वृंद की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री राधा गोविंद देव की सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय श्री पंच तत्व की जय ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू गुरु एंड गौरांग जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हमारे गुरु आध्यात्मिक गुरु के चरण कमल ही एकमात्र साधन है जिनके द्वारा हम शुद्ध भक्ति प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। मैं उनके चरण कमलों में अत्यंत भक्ति एवं श्रद्धापूर्वक नतमस्तक होता हूँ। उनकी कृपा से जीव भौतिक क्लेशों के महासागर को पार कर सकता है तथा कृष्ण की कृपा प्राप्त कर सकता है। मेरी एकमात्र इच्छा है कि उनके मुख कमल से निकले हुए शब्दों द्वारा अपनी चेतना को शुद्ध करूँ। उनके चरण कमलों में अनुराग ऐसी सिद्धि है जो समस्त मनोरथों को पूर्ण करती है। वे मेरी बंद आँखों को खोलते हैं तथा मेरे हृदय में दिव्य ज्ञान भरते हैं। जन्म जन्मांतरों से वे मेरे प्रभु हैं। वे प्रेमा भक्ति प्रदान करते हैं और अविद्या का नाश करते हैं। वैदिक शास्त्र उनके चरित्र का गान करते हैं। हे गुरुदेव करुणा सिंधु तथा पतित आत्माओं के मित्र, आप सबके गुरु एवं सभी लोगों के जीवन हैं। हे गुरुदेव मुझ पर दया कीजिए तथा मुझे अपने श्री चरणों की छाया प्रदान कीजिए। आपका यश तीनों लोकों में फैला हुआ है। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
अभी यहाँ पे
जगच्चार्य सत्तर सदस्यमान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। आनंद कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। नववेद भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the Swami. All glories to the Swami. All glories to the Swami. Thank you very much.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
नित्यं
Nityam
ददाति
Dadati
कामस्य
Kamasya
छिद्रं
Chidram
तं
Tam
अनु
Anu
ये
Ye
करयः
Arya
योगिना
Yogina
कृता
Krita
मैत्रस्य
Maitrasya
पत्युर्
Patyur
जायेव
Jaiva
पुंश्चली
Pumschali
नित्यं ददाति कामस्य
Nityam Dadati Kamasya
छिद्रं तमनुयेरयः योगिनः कृतमैत्रस्य
Yogina Krita Maitrasya
पत्युर्जायेव पुंश्चली
Jaiva Pumschali
यं ददाति कामस्य
Nityam Dadati Kamasya
छिद्रं तमनुयेरयः
Chidram Tamanayeva
योगिनः कृतमैत्रस्य
Yogina Krita Maitrasya
पत्युर्जायेव पुंश्चली
Patyur Jaiva Pumschali
नित्यं ददाति
Nityam
always. Translation: an unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. Who is easily carried away by men. Such a woman is never to be trusted. Unfortunately, in the present age, women are never controlled. According to the directions of Shastras, women are never to be given freedom. When a child, a woman must be strictly controlled by her father. When she is young, she must be strictly controlled by her husband. And when she is old, she must be controlled by her elderly sons. If she is given independence and allowed to mingle unrestrictedly with men, she will be spoiled. A spoiled woman, being manipulated by paramours, might even kill her husband. This example is given here because a yogi, desiring to get free from material conditions, must always keep his mind under control. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the morning our first business should be to beat the mind with shoes 100 times, and before going to bed, to beat the mind 100 times with a broomstick. In this way, one's mind can be kept under control. An uncontrolled mind and an unchaste wife are the same. An unchaste wife can kill her husband at any time, and an uncontrolled mind, followed by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and delusion, can certainly kill the yogi. When the yogi is controlled by the mind, he falls down into the material condition. One should be very careful of the mind, just as a husband should be careful of an unchaste wife.
नित्यं ददाति कामस्य
Chidrang tamanu vairaya yogina 𝒍𝒂𝒚𝒔 𝒍𝒂𝒏𝒕 𝒍𝒂𝒐. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, everything threadbare, discussed, very practical, and absolute truth. There are social, political, religious, everything is discussed very scientifically. So, here the example is given of the woman 𝒂𝒚𝒔. There are three kinds of women: Kamini, Sairendri, and 𝒂𝒚𝒔, according to Shastra. So, they become, because just like children, they are innocent, and if they are given freedom, they will be spoiled. Everyone knows it. If you don't give proper training to the children and allow him to do independently whatever he likes, that means that child is spoiled. Prapti tu षोडशो ऋषि. Chanakya Pandit advised. Larani bahavo dosa, sarani bahavo guna. Tasmat puttanta sishyancha sare natulare. This is required. And Tulsidas, he has also said, Tulsidas is a big poet in Hindi language. He has written the 𝒍𝒂𝒚𝒔. His opinion, not only his opinion, that is the Vedic opinion, that he says, ढोल गंवार स्त्री शूद्र पशु शूद्र नारी ये सब शासन के अधिकार. So this statement will not be very palatable to the Western girls. They want independence. In Chicago, when I was there, they talked about independence of the woman. They asked me a question. So I replied, no, women cannot be given independence. So there was a great agitation against me. In many papers, I was very much criticized. But actually it is a fact, because they are innocent, not so intelligent, and these are all practical. We may avoid discussing, but Bhagavad is very open for discussing all subject matter. That is fact. We should not hide anything artificially. We must discuss fact. Not only here, the mention it is, the Manusangita. Manusangita recommends women should not be given independence. For their interest, they must be protected by father, husband, and sons. Chana here. Because if they are polluted, they become very dangerous. Chanakya Pandit said that dushta bhajya sathang mitram bhrittascha uttaradaya sasatprita grihi vasa mrityuveva nasansaya. If the wife is not chaste and friend is cheater or satang. Satang means duplicity, not very sincere friend. Outwardly he's saying he's very good friend, but inwardly he has got some intention. Such friend, duplicity, and unchaste wife, dushta bhajya sathang mitram, and bhrittascha uttaradaya, and servant giving reply, and sasakrita grihe vasa, and in your room, if there is a snake, of course, in this big concrete building, there is no question of snake, but in cottages, huts made with mud, earth, there are sometimes snakes. So Chanakya Pandit said that if you live with a dushta bhajya and a duplicity friend and a answer-giving servant and a snake, then you are sure to die. Sometime you will be cheated. If they are not controlled, not properly educated, there is chance of becoming pumschali. And there have been many instances that women, for being attracted by Parama, has killed even one's own son. There have been cases. So, Bhishmadev also advised that the shyness of woman, lajja, is the control. If you break that shyness, then there will be disaster. That is the control valve, naturally given. And woman's shyness is one beauty. Beauty. We have got practical experience. And command also. We have practical experience in our life. You have seen that my friend came, Dinanath Mishra. They were our neighbor. So one day we were sitting on the corridor of the house. One sweeper woman, she wanted to come within, but very shyful and with a covering of the head, although with broomstick and bucket. She was waiting because we were sitting both sides. So she was feeling little shy not to enter the house. So we decided to move so that she may come. This example is given. She is a sweeper, not very respectable, but servant or sweeper. But on account of her shyness, we had to welcome. Yes, we are moving, coming. Just see. This is psychology. So therefore, 𝒉𝒎𝒏𝒕, at his dying stage, he advised that woman's shyness is the verb to control. If that shyness is broken, then it will create disaster. Punctually. This is psychology. Things are changing nowadays, everywhere, not only in India, in other countries also. But this is the psychology. So all these examples are given. Why? Just to control the mind. In Hindi, there is a proverb that money and wife you should always keep in control. There are so many examples. So the real purpose is that we are not talking of the sociology or politics. The example is given that we should not give freedom to the mind. That is the real purpose. If we give freedom to the mind, then mind will create so many ideas. I have practically seen in our society, as soon as one is in charge, immediately invent something new. It should be broken and it should be done. Then another man comes, he makes the same thing again. That is practical experience I've got. Unless there is control over the mind, it will dictate something new. Do it like this. There was a Bengali poet, he also sung a song, "Ekta notun kichu koro." Do something new. This is mind's business. He is not satisfied with the old things. Notun kichu koro. That's a very big song. Why? Change. The whole material world is like that. Ekta notun kichu koro. Do something new and be implicated. We are not satisfied with the old things. Old order changes, yields to old order. There is an English proverb like that, yielding to the new. But the Vedic civilization is that do not try to invent some order that will create disturbance. Be satisfied whatever you have got by nature's way. Be satisfied. Don't spoil your time. Save time for Krishna consciousness. That is very spiritual. That is the purpose of life, the valuable life. Bhaunam sambhavanti. This life, human form of life we have got, Bhavu sambhavanti. After many, many years in the evolutionary process, Jalajanam lakhani savara lakhavinchati krimayo sankata. We are coming one after another from the lowest, low-grade life in the water, then plants, creepers, trees, then insects, then flies, in this way, then birds, then beasts. In this way, millions and millions years after, we have got this human form of life, especially those who are civilized. There are 400,000 forms of human life also. Not all the same. The uncivilized and civilized, the black and white, and so many different grades of man. They are different intelligence. In this way, one who has taken birth in India, he is the most fortunate. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharat bhumite manusya janma 𝒍𝒍𝒂𝒚𝒔. Janma 𝒍𝒑 kari karo karo karo. So, unfortunately, we are forgetting our culture. Otherwise, we have got a great mission, Indians, for the others, Prabhupada, they require the information of this Vedic knowledge, and they are now getting, they are appreciating, therefore there is movement against it, but it is actual civilization. The Vedic culture is actual civilization. Varnashram dharma, that is the beginning of civilization. Without Vedic culture and Varnashram dharma, it is the animal civilization. When Ramananda Raj and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Ramananda Raj, what is the beginning of life? Saddha sadhana. What is the objective of the ultimate goal of life? And how that objective of life is attained? Saddha sadhana. Saddha means the objective, the aim, and sadhana means the process. Saddha sadhana. So, Ramananda Raj, he said, Varnashram. Varnashram. That is the beginning of life. Because Varnashram means the life is, human life is meant for understanding the supreme law. That is human life. The cats and dogs' life is not meant for understanding God. It is not possible either. They cannot understand. But the evolutionary process, when you come to the civilized form of life, especially the Vedic culture, there are many living entities. Out of them, some of them are chol and some of them are achol. Chol means moving. Just like tree is not moving, but it is life. But a small insect, it is moving. Sabar jangam, they are called in technical words. Sabar means standing in one place. And the vegetables, trees, plants are more condemned. They cannot move. They will have to stand up in a place for thousands of years. There is no possibility even to move. if there is storm, scorching heat, pinching, cold, they cannot make. They'll have to suffer. So it is very condemned life to become tree and plant, a sour. Then Jangam. Then Jangam means moving. So there are many varieties of moving animals. The insects, the birds, the beasts, then human form. Out of the human moving forms, the civilized form, out of the civilized form, those who are in Vedic culture, out of the Vedic culture, many are addicted to the fruitive activities, ritualistic ceremony, how to go to the heavenly planet, how to become members of a rich family. They are working very hard. Kurmi. So out of many millions of kurmis, one Gyani. Gyani means who understands what is the use of this. Karma, fruitive activities. There are out of many Gyanis, one is Mukta, liberated. And out of many millions of Mukta, Kotisabhi Mahamane, one is a Bhakta. This is gradual development. So, we should be very careful. We have got this opportunity of understanding Krishna consciousness. We should not waste a single moment without Krishna consciousness. 𝒍𝒍𝒂𝒚𝒔, that is advised by Rupa Goswami. Every moment we shall count whether I have wasted it or utilized it. This is life. Thank you very much.
one of these crazy guys here could run up and throw something at him, or who knows what, because they had done things like that to his disciples. And so I was standing next to Prabhupada and kind of protecting him from the crowd in my mind, and we were walking towards the door to go out onto the curb, and the access kind of funneled down, and then to go through the door, only one person could go through. And here I was like preoccupied with this idea that I'm going to protect Prabhupada and get him through the door safely. And Prabhupada just went like this, with his left arm, and I was standing on his left side. The next thing I could remember, I was at the back of the crowd, everybody's in front of me, and Prabhupada was in the car. And the devotees were ushering him off to the temple. And it was very mystical to me, because I thought, here I was thinking I'm protecting the spiritual master, and he's showing me I'm protected by Krishna. And I can protect you also.
In Chicago, the airport there is called O'Hare International Airport. And it's spelled O-H-A-R-E. So Prabhupada told his leading book distributor, Tripurari Maharaj, go to the airport manager and tell them that they should rename the airport Hare Krishna International Airport. And this was an airport in which our book distributors were so aggressively distributing books that every day there was confrontation between the guards at the airport and the book distributors. So the management of that airport hated us. And still Prabhupada made his best book distributor go to the manager, and Tripurari Maharaj went there and said to him very seriously, you should rename your airport Hare Krishna International Airport. Why did Prabhupada do this? Was he trying to have fun with his disciples? Prabhupada, he took every possible opportunity to somehow push forward the idea of Krishna consciousness. His idea was that everything belonged to Krishna. Everything. He saw everything as really meant to be glorifying Krishna.
In order to help prepare for Prabhupada's arrival, Govardhan, president of Detroit, and the brahmacharis went ahead to Chicago to help fix the temple up a little bit. We had a real crack cleaning crew for Detroit. Govardhan hated dirt. The Detroit temple was always spotless. It had white floors, white staircases. So we came there, and I remember the doors flying open in the vans, floor machines coming out, and everybody got to work and scrubbed the place down, made it really clean. We built a little desk and a seat for Prabhupada. This desk was a sheet of plywood and some 4x4s. I built it. They had a room for Prabhupada, very simple room, just bed, chair, desk. He lived very, very simply there.
I got to wait outside of Srila Prabhupada's door because I was his bodyguard. And every time Prabhupada came out the door, I'd offer my obeisances, his foot would come down right by my face, right? And then it'd go, and I thought, I wanted to get the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee, because we had just started that Guru Puja program every morning a few months before that, and we were praying the lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. So I thought, I need those lotus feet. I have to have those lotus feet on my head. But being near Prabhupada was quite an intimidating experience. So they asked to have initiations. They brought us into the room. And I was in such a state, I didn't know what he was saying or what I was doing, but I was just very conscientious that I was with a pure devotee of the Lord. As a matter of fact, when I walked into the room, and this was the only time I was probably alone with Srila Prabhupada, I walked in the room, I offered my obeisances, and when I stood up, his eyes were like fixed right on my eyes. And just for a second, I looked into his eyes, and the most incredible thing that ever happened to me with another human being occurred at that moment, in that I had this overwhelming realization that he knew everything about me. And I felt so shameful. I felt like I do not deserve to be in the room with this personality. And it was also, there's no sense in trying to be pretentious because he knows anyways. So don't try to pretend to be something that you're not. But those eyes, it wasn't like looking at me like you are such a fallen soul. But it was this look of infinite compassion and almost like he understood my suffering. And all of this happened just like in a megasecond. And then I couldn't look any longer and I looked down. But I knew, you must bare your soul to the spiritual master. There's no sense in trying to pretend because you can't cheat the Mahabhagavad. So then Prabhupada gave me the Gayatri Mantra. And then he said, so, are you chanting your 16 rounds? And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, and are you preaching Krishna consciousness? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I'm a Sankirtan devotee. I go out on book distribution every day. And then he said, always preach Krishna consciousness. And I said, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, okay. And then I said, I had to muster up all the courage that I had within my being because I was thinking of those lotus feet. And they were just sitting on the Vyasa, and Prabhupada had his dhoti pulled up to his knees, and his feet were right there. And I said, Srila Prabhupada? And he said, yes. I said, Srila Prabhupada, could I touch your lotus feet? And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, that is not necessary. And I went, Jai Srila Prabhupada, I offered my obeisance. I went out, I felt so stupid. I couldn't believe I asked that question. It was so trite, you know. So I went out and I told Sir and Vaish was there and Pragosh, and they all cracked up and they said, Uday, you are such a nerd. Can't believe you did that.
The first temple in Chicago was on Halsted Street. It was a storefront, and that was run by first Rudra Das and his wife, and then later Bahulasva. That temple closed. At that time I was temple president in Cleveland, and Bhagavan decided to centralize his zone, so he closed the temple in Chicago and pulled all the different leaders back to Detroit for meetings to try to determine how things would be managed. And I kept saying, you know, how can we neglect Chicago? Chicago is the biggest city in the zone. We can't close Chicago. And then one day Bhagavan just slammed his fist down and said, damn it, Govinda, just go to Chicago. So we went with a couple of brahmacharis, and then we were collecting and doing some preaching, and then the traveling rock group was kind of disbanded by Prabhupada, and they came to Chicago. So we had a lot more people there, and searching around we came upon this former YMCA building.
We were in the old YMCA. Actually, it was the old black YMCA from segregated times. And it was a rather rundown building when we got it. We had done a lot of renovations. So one of the main things we did that year was totally redo the gymnasium into a beautiful big temple room with side balconies and a huge altar and everything. And actually, Sri Govinda was the inspiration behind the aesthetics of it, and I had organized the work. And when Prabhupada arrived and first sat in the Vyasasan there and looked at it all, which for the time I think devotees will remember was quite gorgeous, Srila Prabhupada said, only devotees could do this.
There's a special darshan Prabhupada gave us just the library party in Chicago with Satsu Maharaj. It's when we had first started the work in America, and we were eager to tell Prabhupada about the success, but we were mostly wanting to hear from Prabhupada how he wanted us to proceed. It was a whole new experience, getting these academics to take the books. So we came in with pens and paper and all ready to take lots of instructions from Prabhupada. And we shared with what we had done so far, asked for guidance, and Srila Prabhupada just simply said, you do your best, and Krishna will help you. And that was it. And at first we were stunned. We were waiting for him to say more. And then we realized, oh, this is a message. So Prabhupada's letting us know that he wants it to be done, and that if we just try to do our best, Krishna will give us the intelligence what to do, and how to do it. There's a message that stuck with me for a long time. When I'm dealing with complex situations, I realize that it doesn't really have to be approached in such a complex way, that somehow if we can just do our best, then Krishna will compensate.
So during the Guru Puja, I remember some brahmacharis, they had developed a kind of boogieing, doing rock dancing. This was going on during Guru Puja. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada, like a conductor, like a maestro, he just stopped the Guru Puja cold, in an instant. And we're all kind of frozen in place. And then Prabhupada gestures to the picture of the Panchatattva in the distance, how their arms are upraised. And he says, dance like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're all corrected, because we're all getting into disco dancing, twisting and boogaloo and shingling and, whatever.
The first time that I ever saw Prabhupada was in the morning. He was sitting on the Vyasasana at the Chicago temple. He was giving a lecture about how we all want to see God, but we can't even see the little piece of God, the soul. Otherwise, why would we be crying when some relative has died? And if we haven't seen a piece of God, how can we think that we can see God? I was standing right near the Vyasasana, maybe 2 feet away, and fanning Prabhupada with a peacock feather fan all during the lecture. And I was simultaneously very happy and very disappointed. I was very happy because I realized that hearing Prabhupada there on the Vyasasana was no different than hearing a tape recording of him. All that time I'd been listening to Prabhupada lectures on tapes, I'd been with him, hearing him, and I felt so happy and so satisfied. But I had wanted something different. I hadn't wanted it to be just the same as a tape recording. I had wanted to get to know Prabhupada the person. A few hours later, my father, my husband, and I went into Prabhupada's room. And right before Srila Prabhupada was speaking to a reporter, which is what you're seeing here, he was very much joking, very congenial, very relaxed. Right after the reporters left, then my father, my husband, and I were introduced. At that point, Prabhupada leaned back on the cushion, and he had one of his legs up, and his dhoti was such that you could see his calves and his lotus feet. And I remember thinking how soft his skin was. It looked like a skin of a baby. And as the conversation began to unfold, I realized that here Krishna was fulfilling my desire to get to see Prabhupada as an individual person. When I was listening to him on the Vyasasana, I was seeing him as the Guru, as the Acharya, and here I was seeing him as Prabhupada, the individual person. It was very, very sweet. This was the first time also that my father had met Srila Prabhupada. My father had been coming to the temple periodically since I joined. First he introduced himself, but Prabhupada thought that my husband was my father's son. And then he understood that it was the daughter. He said, "Do you have any sons?" My father said, "No, only daughters." Prabhupada said, "Oh, only daughters." And then my father said, "I'm coming to this temple not because I want to see Krishna, but because I want to see my daughter and my son-in-law. Is that all right?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes, they are loving Krishna." And I was thinking, I don't love Krishna. He said chanting and dancing are symptoms of loving Krishna. And they are loving Krishna, and you are loving them. So two things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Then my father said, "But I'm a Jew, and is it really all right that I come to the temple even though I'm Jewish?" Prabhupada said, "Yes, there can be many planes going to Chicago, but they have to know they are going to Chicago. Otherwise, what is the meaning of many planes? So there can be many religions, but they have to know what is the goal. The goal is to know God and to love Him. If you know that the goal is to know God and to love Him, then there can be many religions. After we walked out, my father turned to me and said, "Now I know why you've come to this Hare Krishna movement. That is a genuine holy man."
After the Radha party, I went to the BBT library party, and we had the good fortune to have a darshan with Srila Prabhupada in Chicago. Mostly, of course, Satsrupa Maharaj, Mahabodhi, Ganesham, they had many points that they were taking up with Srila Prabhupada, and I was kind of sitting on the edge of things. But I had one question in my mind, and I waited for my chance, and then when there was a little lull, I raised my hand and Prabhupada called on me. My concern was often the professors wanted to know if these books will tell us about the ancient technology of Vedic India. Because at that time, a book had come out by Erich von Däniken called Chariot of the Gods. And there was reference in there to the Mahabharata and Puranas, that they were Bimanas or airplanes or flying saucers, whatever they were, described in these ancient Sanskrit texts. So I wanted to hear Prabhupada, what he would say about this. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, many times the professors I meet, they ask me about Vedic technology. And Prabhupada hardly let those words get out of my mouth before he rapped the table with his knuckles. And he just said very shortly, Vedic technology means Sri Guru Parampara. And that's all he said. But it was such a profound statement for me. It was an immediate instruction because, of course, I was asking the question impelled by all kinds of speculations going on in my mind. I had actually read that book, Chariot of the Gods, just to, find out more what these professors were talking about. So, my mind had been drifting in orbit. And Prabhupada just brought me right down to earth. Vedic technology means Sri Guru Parampara, and I meditated on that. That's been a very important sutra in my life since that time. One thing is that you think about technology in the modern sense, and it's the motive force behind this Western civilization and the culture that is associated with that, which has really covered the earth. So technology is the dynamic force of civilization. We know that the Vedic civilization once covered the earth. India was once in the position that America is in now, as being the leading country that all other countries emulated. And how it got to that position was because of following Sri Guru Parampara. And that is the key to how, again, Vedic culture can spread all over the world and become synonymous with civilization. See, now when people think of civilization, they look to America or they look to Western Europe. They think that's where civilization is. But actually, real civilization is Vedic civilization. And the key to that is Sri Guru Parampara, as Prabhupada said.
We went to Chicago to take Prabhupada darshan and have his association again. He immediately recognized us. He says, "Oh, I see you before in Detroit."